The party lights shimmered across the Lagos night, music pounding like thunder in the background. Mara, dressed in a glittering gown and a carefully styled wig, slipped quietly into the corner of the packed mansion. Nobody at the party knew who she really was, not even Wesley. Her phone was on record, screen dark, microphone sharp. She wasn't here to dance. She wasn't here to mingle. She was here to find out the truth. And then it happened. Wesley, in his sharp navy suit, holding a glass of champagne, leaned close to his group of friends. His lips twisted into a cruel smile. "I just want to get into one of the triplets' skirts," he sneered. "They're so beautiful. Once I'm done, I'll move on. I don't have time for silly, faithful relationships." Some of his friends burst into laughter, others shaking their heads. One even muttered, "Wesley, this isn't right." But Wesley only smirked wider. Mara's heart pounded so loud she thought someone would hear it. She almost dropped her phone. Her sister Sara was falling for this man. Their parents were already asking questions about marriage. And here was Wesley mocking everything, planning to break Sara's heart like it meant nothing. Her fingers tightened around the phone. "This is it. This is the proof we need." But just as Mara was about to sneak away, Wesley's eyes swept the room and landed dangerously close to her corner. She froze. He tilted his head, suspicion flashing in his gaze. Would he recognize her? Would he know she was Sara's twin? She reasoned. The music pounded louder. Mara pressed herself into the shadow of the curtain, praying he wouldn't move closer. It all began just a few months earlier. The triplets, Mara, Clara, and Sara, were the talk of Lagos. At 22, they were beautiful, intelligent, and in their final year at the University of Lagos. Their parents, Mr. and Mrs. Femi, loved them dearly and had begun dropping subtle hints. "It's time you girls start thinking of your future," their mother often said at dinner. "Education is good, but having the right partner matters too." That was when Wesley appeared. Tall, charming, with an easy smile that could melt butter, he wasted no time. His attention went straight to Sara. "I really love you," he told her one sunny afternoon outside the campus cafeteria. His voice was smooth, his eyes locked onto hers. "I wish to marry you, Sara." Sara's cheeks flushed. She was shy but kind, the softest among the triplets. Her heart fluttered at his words. She didn't know why, but something about him pulled her in. But her sisters were not convinced. "Mara, Clara," Sara whispered to them one night, her voice trembling. "He says he loves me. He wants to marry me." Clara frowned immediately. She was the sharp one, always reading people, always quick to sense danger. "Sara, slow down. This Wesley, something is off about him." Mara nodded slowly. "I don't trust his eyes. They look slippery, like someone hiding something." But Sara shook her head. "You two always overthink. Maybe he's different. Maybe he's the one." Clara and Mara exchanged a worried look. They had seen men like Wesley before, smooth talkers, smiling snakes. They couldn't stand by and watch Sara's innocence be destroyed. That was when the sisters made a silent pact. They would protect Sara, even if it meant going behind her back. Now at the party, Mara's phone was still recording. Wesley's cruel words were etched forever into the memory card. She had her proof, but her heart raced wildly as his eyes scanned the crowd again. "Mara?" A voice whispered suddenly behind her. She spun around only to see one of Wesley's friends staring at her closely, eyes narrowing in recognition. "Wait," he muttered. "Aren't you?" Mara's blood turned cold. If he exposed her now, the entire plan would shatter. Wesley would know he was being watched. Sara would never believe them. She had only one choice, either slip away quietly or stand her ground and risk everything. The phone in her hand buzzed slightly, as if reminding her, "This recording could save your sister, or ruin everything." And then, Wesley began walking toward her. Mara's breath caught in her throat as Wesley's footsteps drew closer. The music in the party seemed to fade, the laughter and clinking glasses melting into a dull echo. Her mind raced. If he sees me here, everything is finished. The friend who had spotted her leaned forward, his brows furrowed. "Wait, aren't you one of those triplets? What's your name again?" Before he could finish, Mara forced a shaky smile. "You must be mistaken. I'm Ada." She lied quickly, shifting her voice slightly. She glanced down, pretending to be busy adjusting her bracelet. The man hesitated, then squinted. Behind him, Wesley kept walking closer, scanning the room like a predator searching for prey. Mara's pulse thundered in her ears. Just then, a loud cheer erupted near the bar as someone popped a champagne bottle. Heads turned, laughter filled the air, and in that distraction, Mara slipped away, moving quickly toward the balcony. Her heels clicked softly against the marble floor as she pushed the door open and stepped into the night. The cool Lagos breeze brushed her face. She clutched her phone tightly against her chest, relief washing over her. She had escaped. For now. But the danger was not over. She knew Wesley was suspicious, and suspicion in a man like him was deadly. The sisters' confrontation. Back at home the next morning, Mara and Clara sat with Sara at the dining table. Sunlight poured into the Femi mansion, bouncing off the polished furniture. The smell of freshly baked bread filled the air. But the mood was tense. Mara placed her phone on the table. "Sara, we need to talk." Sara blinked, her spoon halfway to her mouth. "Talk about what?" "About Wesley," Clara said sharply. Her eyes, always sharp and piercing, locked onto her sister's. "He's not who he says he is." Sara frowned, setting her spoon down. "You both are at it again. You've never liked him. Why can't you just let me be happy?" Mara's heart ached at the hurt in her sister's voice. She unlocked the phone and slid it across the table. "Listen for yourself." Sara hesitated, then pressed play. Wesley's voice oozed from the tiny speaker. "I just want to get into one of the triplet skirts. They're so beautiful. Once I'm done, I'll move on. I don't have time for silly, faithful relationships." The readers to the noust. The blood drained from Sara's face. Her spoon clattered to the floor. "No," she whispered, eyes wide. "There's more," Clara said firmly. She dropped a manila envelope on the table. Inside were pictures they had gathered Wesley with a woman and 3 children. His wife, his real family. Sara's lips trembled as she pulled the photos out. The proof stared back at her. Wesley holding a little girl at a park. Wesley, his arm around a woman at a shopping mall. Wesley laughing as he carried a boy on his shoulders. Sara's hands shook. Tears blurred her vision. He told me he was single. He told me he loved me." Mara reached across the table, squeezing her hand. "Sara, we had to show you. He's a liar. He's a predator. He would have destroyed you." Sara buried her face in her palms. I almost believed him. I almost said yes." Clara's voice softened for the first time. "That's why we couldn't stay quiet. You're our sister. We'll protect you, even if you hate us for it." But Wesley was not a man who took being exposed lightly. 2 days later, as the triplets walked across campus together, Sara still pale from heartbreak, a black SUV pulled up beside them. The tinted window rolled down, and Wesley's cold eyes glared out. "So," he said, voice low and dangerous, "this is what you do? Sending your sisters to spy on me? To destroy me?" Sara froze. Mara stepped forward bravely, though her knees shook. "We know the truth, Wesley. You're married, you have children, and you tried to deceive Sara." Wesley's lips curved into a slow, mocking smile. "And what do you think you've achieved, Do you think people will believe you? Do you think I'll just walk away quietly?" Clara narrowed her eyes. "We have proof. Everything is recorded. Try us." His smile faded into a glare, and for a chilling second, the street grew silent. Then Wesley leaned back into his seat, the SUV engine growling like a beast. "This isn't over," he hissed, before the vehicle sped away, leaving dust swirling around them. Sara clutched Mara's arm, trembling. "He's angry. What if he tries to hurt us?" Mara hugged her tightly. "Then let him try. He doesn't know who he's dealing with." But deep inside, Mara and Clara knew this wasn't just about protecting Sara anymore. They had made themselves enemies of a dangerous man, and he wasn't the type to let go easily. As the triplets walked back to the hostel, fear and determination clashing in their hearts, a new question hovered in the air. What would Wesley do next? The threat in Wesley's voice still rang in Sara's ears long after his SUV roared away. The triplets tried to keep calm, but deep down they knew. Wesley wasn't bluffing. For days, strange things began to happen. Sara's phone buzzed at midnight with anonymous calls. Each time she picked up, there was only heavy breathing on the other end before the line went dead. One afternoon, Mara found a note slipped under their hostel door. The words were scribbled in angry handwriting. "You think you can ruin me? I'll ruin you all first." Clara's instincts, sharp as always, kicked in. "He's watching us," she whispered, holding the note with trembling fingers. "He knows where we stay." Sara hugged herself, her face pale. "I never should have let him close. This is all my fault." Mara quickly pulled her into a tight hug. "Don't say that. He's the one at fault. We're in this together. We'll find a way to fight him." 2 days later, the triplets attended a career seminar at the university auditorium. The hall was filled with students, professors, and invited guests. The girls, dressed in matching white blouses and black skirts, stood out as usual, three identical beauties, admired by all. Halfway through the event, Wesley walked in. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Students murmured, recognizing him as the wealthy businessman who had once been seen around campus. Wesley walked with deliberate calm, his sharp suit catching the stage lights. Sara's heart nearly stopped. "What is he doing here?" she whispered, clutching Mara's arm. Clara's eyes narrowed. "He's here to make a scene. Watch him." And she was right. Wesley marched to the front row, ignoring the curious stares, and raised his hand to speak. "I have something important to say," he announced boldly. "About these triplets, Mara, Clara, and Sara." The entire hall turned toward the sisters. Sara's blood drained from her face. Mara stood frozen. Clara clenched her fists. "They've been spreading lies about me," Wesley continued, his voice booming. "They call me a cheat, a liar, a man with a secret family. But these are all fabrications because I refused to marry one of them." A shocked murmur swept through the crowd. Some students glanced at the triplets with doubt in their eyes. Wesley smirked. "They are trying to destroy my name because I rejected them. But I will not let such falsehoods ruin my reputation." Mara jumped to her feet, her voice shaking but loud enough to carry. "That's not true. You're the liar, Wesley." The hall went silent. Clara pulled out her phone, scrolling quickly. "You want proof? Here it is." She pressed play, and the recording of Wesley's mocking words blasted from the speaker. "I just want to get into one of the triplet skirts. I don't have time for silly faithful relationships." The crowd gasped louder this time. Some students shouted in anger. A professor shook his head in disappointment, but Wesley only laughed bitterly, clapping his hands. "A recording? Who knows how you manipulated it? Technology can fake anything these days." He leaned closer, eyes narrowing at the sisters. "If you think this little stunt will stop me, you're wrong." With that, he stormed out of the hall, his shoes clicking hard against the marble floor. Sara collapsed back into her chair, trembling. "He's turning people against us. What if no one believes us?" Mara reached for her hand. "Don't worry. Some will doubt, yes, but others saw the truth in his face today, and we'll keep gathering proof until no one can deny it." Clara nodded firmly. "This is just the beginning. We need to dig deeper. Wesley must have more secrets, and we'll uncover them all." That night, while the sisters sat in their room, Mara suddenly spoke up. "I think I know what to do." Clara raised an eyebrow. "What? Wesley won't stop unless we expose him completely. I heard he's hosting a private gathering with his wealthy friends this weekend. If we can sneak in again, maybe we'll find something even bigger. Documents. Proof he can't deny." Sara gasped. "Sneak in? Mara, that's too dangerous. What if he catches us?" Mara's eyes burned with determination. "Then so be it. But if we don't stop him now, he'll keep hurting others. We can't let him destroy another woman's life." Clara leaned back slowly, a faint smile playing on her lips. "You know what? I like this plan. Risky, but smart." Sara shook her head, fear clouding her eyes. I can't. Not again. I nearly lost myself once. I can't go back into his world." Mara reached for her hands. "You don't have to come, but Clara and I will go. We'll do this for you. For all of us." Sara's lips trembled. She wanted to argue, but deep inside, she knew her sisters were right. Wesley wasn't just a liar, he was dangerous. And the only way to end this nightmare was to expose him once and for all. As the clock ticked past midnight, the sisters sat in silence, the weight of their plan pressing on them. Outside, the Lagos streets buzzed with life, but inside, their hearts pounded with fear and resolve. Because in just 2 nights, Mara and Clara would walk straight into Wesley's world. And this time, there would be no running away. The night of Wesley's private gathering arrived faster than Mara and Clara had prepared for. Lagos was alive with glowing city lights, cars honking, and music booming from clubs, but the sisters had only one thought: getting into Wesley's mansion undetected. Wesley's house stood tall in Ikoyi, a glittering palace with marble pillars and high fences. Security guards in black suits patrolled the gate. Expensive cars lined the driveway: Range Rovers, Mercedes, and sleek Bentleys. Clearly, this was no ordinary party. It was a gathering of the wealthy elite. Mara adjusted her wig nervously. She wore a shimmering silver dress borrowed from a friend, her face carefully made up to look older. Beside her, Clara wore a red gown, her hair pinned up high, giving her the appearance of a rich socialite. "Remember," Clara whispered as they approached, clutching her clutch bag tightly. "We're not here to dance. We're here for proof. Eyes open, no mistakes." Mara nodded, her heart racing. At the gate, one of Wesley's guards stopped them. "Invitation?" Clara slipped a crisp white envelope into his hand, a borrowed invitation from Wesley's careless associate, whom Mara had sweet-talked earlier in the week. The guard glanced at it, then at them, and waved them in. The sisters exhaled in relief. They were in. The mansion glittered like a palace inside. Chandeliers hung from the ceiling, throwing diamonds of light across the marble floor. Waiters moved with trays of champagne, and laughter echoed from every corner. Wealthy men and women mingled in designer clothes, their conversations dripping with pride and power. But at the center of it all was Wesley. He stood near the staircase, laughing loudly with a group of men. He looked completely in control, his sharp suit perfectly tailored, his smile confident. To the world, he was a successful businessman. Only the sisters knew the rot behind the shine. Clara leaned closer to Mara. "We need to find his study. That's where he'll keep documents, contracts, maybe even proof of his fake businesses." Mara's eyes darted around until she spotted a hallway leading away from the party. "This way," she whispered. They slipped past the crowd, their heels clicking softly. Every step felt like walking on fire. What if someone stopped them? What if Wesley recognized them? The hallway was darker, quieter. A long corridor stretched ahead, lined with doors. At the far end was a large wooden door with gold handles. "That must be it," Clara said. Mara's hands shook as she turned the handle. The door creaked open into a study lined with bookshelves and a massive desk. Papers were scattered across it, along with a laptop. "Quick," Clara urged. "Take pictures of everything." Mara pulled out her phone, snapping photos of documents. Business contracts under fake names, bank transfers to offshore accounts, even a list of women's names with notes scribbled beside them, dates, gifts, and amounts of money spent. Her stomach churned. He's been running this game for years. Just as Mara picked up one folder, her eyes widened. Inside were photographs of Wesley with women in different cities, his arm around each one, smiling like a predator who had won his hunt. Some of the women looked wealthy, others desperate. All of them were victims. Clara whispered, "This is it. Proof that can bury him forever." Mara quickly stuffed the folder into her bag. But before they could leave, the sound of footsteps echoed in the hallway. "Someone's coming," Clara hissed. They scrambled behind the curtain near the window, pressing themselves flat against the wall. The door opened, and Wesley stepped in. The sisters froze, barely breathing. Wesley walked to his desk, humming softly as he poured himself a drink. He picked up a paper, glanced at it, then sighed. "People think they can ruin me," he muttered to himself. "But I always win." Mara's fingers dug into Clara's arm. Her heart pounded so loudly she was sure Wesley could hear it. Then Wesley's phone buzzed. He answered it with a smirk. "Yes, the girls, don't worry. I'll deal with them soon. By the time I'm finished, they'll regret ever crossing me." Clara's eyes widened in the shadows. "He's planning something against us." Wesley finished his call and turned, his gaze sweeping across the room. For one terrifying second, his eyes seemed to land on the curtain. Mara held her breath. "Please don't see us." Wesley took a step closer. Another step. He was now just a few feet from where they hid. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed from the party hall, the sound of glass shattering. Wesley cursed under his breath and stormed out to check the commotion, slamming the door behind him. The sisters nearly collapsed from relief. Clara grabbed Mara's hand. "We have to leave. Now. Before he comes back." Mara clutched the bag with the folder inside. Her hands trembled, but her eyes burned with determination. "We've got him, Clara. This time, we've got him." They slipped out of the study, down the hallway, and into the crowded party. The noise and laughter shielded them, but they felt Wesley's shadow everywhere. As they reached the door, Mara glanced back and froze. Wesley was standing at the top of the stairs, his sharp eyes scanning the crowd. For a moment, his gaze brushed over them. Did he recognize them? Did he know? The sisters didn't wait to find out. They hurried outside, climbed into a taxi, and sped away into the Lagos night. Inside the taxi, Mara finally exhaled. "We did it. We have everything." Clara squeezed her hand, though her eyes were still tense. "Yes, but Wesley won't let this go. He'll come after us harder now." Mara clutched the bag tightly. "Then let him come. This time, we're ready." But even as she said the words, a chilling thought crept into her mind. What if Wesley had already figured out they were there? What if this was only the beginning of his trap? The next morning, the triplets sat huddled in the living room of the Femi mansion. Sunlight streamed through the windows, but the brightness did nothing to ease the tension in the room. Mara's bag lay on the table, the folder of damning evidence inside. Sara kept pacing, her hands trembling. "He knows, Mara. I just feel it. Wesley knows you were in that house last night." Clara sat with her arms folded, her face calm but her eyes sharp. "Even if he knows, it doesn't matter. We have everything we need to destroy him now. Documents, pictures, recordings. Once we go public, his entire empire will crumble." Mara leaned forward, her voice firm. "But we can't just post this online and hope for the best. Wesley has money. He has connections. He'll twist the story again. We need to make this official. We need the law on our side." Clara nodded slowly. "Then we go to the press and the police. At the same time. If we play this right, he won't have a chance to bury it." Sara stopped pacing, her eyes brimming with tears. "I don't know if I'm strong enough for this." Mara stood and wrapped her arms around her. "You don't have to be strong alone. We're three, remember? Triplets. We fight together." But Wesley wasn't sitting quietly. That same afternoon, a story broke online. Businessman accuses famous triplets of extortion. The article painted Mara, Clara, and Sara as desperate young women trying to blackmail Wesley after he politely rejected their advances. Pictures of them at events with him, innocent photos where they stood in the same crowd, were twisted into evidence. Sara's phone buzzed non-stop with messages. Some people believed Wesley's lies, others attacked the girls on social media, calling them gold diggers. Sara's knees gave out and she collapsed onto the sofa. "He's winning again. People think we're the bad ones." Clara's jaw tightened. "Let them talk. Once we release the real evidence, no one will doubt." Mara picked up the folder, holding it high like a sword. "Then we don't wait any longer. Tonight we strike." By evening, the sisters stood in a packed press hall in Ikeja. Journalists crowded the room, cameras flashing, microphones lined up on the podium. Mara stepped forward first, her heart pounding. "We are here because the truth must be told. Wesley is not who he claims to be." She placed the folder on the table, opening it for the world to see. One by one, the photographs and documents were displayed on the projector screen behind them. Wesley with different women, notes of money he had taken, proof of his wife and children, the list of victims' names. Gasps filled the room. Then Clara pressed play on her phone, and Wesley's voice echoed through the hall once again. "I just want to get into one of the triplet skirts. Once I'm done, I'll move on." And the Stimes Palmer. It was Mock Scudderby Doe. The room erupted. Reporters scribbled furiously. Cameras zoomed in, and murmurs of shock spread like wildfire. Sara stepped forward finally, her voice shaky but strong. "I almost believed him. I almost gave him my heart. But my sisters saved me, and today we want to save every other woman from becoming his victim. The truth is here. Let the world decide." But Wesley wasn't done. As the press conference ended and the sisters stepped outside, a black SUV screeched to a halt in front of the building. Doors flung open, and Wesley stepped out, his face twisted with rage. "You think you can ruin me?" he shouted, his voice echoing across the street. "Do you know who I am? I own judges, police, everything. You three are finished." Reporters swarmed closer, cameras flashing. This was being broadcast live. Clara stood tall, her chin lifted. "No, Wesley. You're finished. The world has seen who you are. There's no hiding anymore. Wesley charged forward, his anger boiling over, but police officers stepped in, blocking his path. Two detectives grabbed his arms. You're under arrest, one of them said coldly. Fraud, extortion, bigamy, and harassment. Wesley struggled violently, shouting curses. This isn't over. I'll destroy you. But his voice grew smaller as he was dragged into the waiting police van. The crowd of reporters erupted in cheers. Cameras clicked furiously. The triplets stood together, hands tightly clasped. The following weeks were a blur. Wesley's empire collapsed piece by piece as victims came forward, emboldened by the triplets' courage. His wife filed for divorce. His businesses were seized. For the first time, Wesley faced consequences he could not buy his way out of. Meanwhile, the triplets found themselves celebrated. Newspapers called them the brave sisters of Lagos. Talk shows invited them to speak. Women from across the country sent messages of gratitude. But for Mara, Clara, and Sara, the real victory was closer to home. One evening, the sisters sat on the balcony of their home, watching the sun sink into the Lagos horizon. Sara leaned her head on Mara's shoulder, her eyes soft. If not for you two, she whispered, I would have fallen into his trap. You saved me. Clara smiled, for once letting her guard down. That's what sisters are for. We protect each other even when it hurts. Mara looked at them both, her heart swelling with love. And we always will. Months later, joy finally replaced the shadows of the past. The triplets each found love with men who were nothing like Wesley, faithful, kind, and genuine. Engineers, lawyers, entrepreneurs, men who valued them not for their beauty alone, but for their minds, their strength, their hearts. And in a move that shook Lagos society, the sisters made a bold decision. They would all get married on the same day. The wedding was like nothing the city had ever seen. Streets were lined with cars, and crowds gathered outside the cathedral just to watch. The media called it the wedding of the century. Mr. and Mrs. Femi, beaming with pride, held hands as they watched their daughters walk down the aisle, each radiant in white gowns, veils shimmering like pearls. For Mara, Clara, and Sara, it wasn't just about marriage. It was about victory, about proving that love built on truth always triumphs over lies. As the bells rang out and confetti filled the air, the sisters smiled at each other. They had faced deceit, danger, and heartbreak, but together, they had emerged stronger than ever. And though Wesley's shadow had once threatened to destroy them, the light of sisterhood had burned brighter. Did you enjoy this story? Then like this video and subscribe to our channel for more videos.